Hello everyone, David A. Cox here with PCClassesOnline.com, and today we are going to be talking about how to organize your stuff on a Mac. Now, we had done a previous version of this class, however, a few things have changed since then, so I made the decision to delete the old version of that video and now remake it. So you are watching the new version of this. Now we are on OS X Mavericks, the latest operating system as of today's date. So I hope you learn a lot, and we're going to get started in just a minute. Now, before we do begin, I want to mention if you have never heard of our website, should you have watched us just surfing around the web on YouTube, check out our website. We are a 100% free public service. We have members in 160 countries. PCClassesOnline.com. The best way to learn everything there is to know about your iPhone, iPad, Mac, or PC. So let's get started here. We're talking about organizing on a Mac, and I think the perfect place to start is how to create a folder. Now there's two different ways that you can do this. The first way is to use the File menu. So let's say I'm on my desktop and I want to create a folder. I can just very simply click where it says File at the very top, and the second item down is New Folder. Now, when I click that, you'll see that at the top right of my screen, it has created a folder called Untitled Folder. One thing I want to mention for those of you who are new to the computer is that you will notice that that text is highlighted right now. Anytime you see text highlighted, you do not have to hit the delete key. Just type over it. So if I want to call this, let's say I want to keep it my recipes, I just type it in and hit the enter key, and it's locked in. Now the other method I'm going to show you right now. The first thing, before we actually do, what I want to mention is that you need to be where you want that folder to go when you do this process. So for example, what if I don't want the folder on my desktop? What if I want to create a folder within the Documents folder? You would do this process from the Documents folder. So while being here, I could click File and go to New Folder, but now I'm going to show you the other method. For those of you who are on a laptop, a MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, if you click with two fingers on your trackpad, as long as it's been enabled for you, you have something called a secondary click, where basically, when you do so, you get a series of additional options, the first of which is New Folder. For those of you who are on a desktop, some of you may have a right-click option that will do the same thing, or if you do not have that, the alternative is you can hold the Control key on your keyboard while clicking, and you'll get that secondary list of options. So now let's create a new folder, and in this case, let's just call it Folder, very simply. The next thing we're going to be talking about is how to select multiple items on a Mac. Now, right now, I'm going to show you this in the context of files, but what I want you to understand is that this applies to the entire computer. So you could do this in email, you could do this in organizing your photos, anything. So there are essentially 3.5 ways that you can select multiple groups of photos, or files rather. The first is individual selection, meaning there is no order. So let's say I want to take this document here, and this document here, and do something with all three of them at the same time. It could be deleting them, it could be moving them into that folder I just created. The way you're going to do it is you're going to start off with clicking on the first one, just a single click, and then what you're going to do is hold down the Command key with your other hand, and now when you click, still holding down that Command key, you'll see that it individually highlights the files that I've selected. So now if I want to take these three items and drop them into the folder here called Folder, I just simply click, drag, and drop all three of them into that folder, and they're all moved. I'm going to undo that right now so they come back. Now the second method of selecting multiple items is to do a list. So let's say I want to select every document from here through here. The way you do it is you click on the first one, but this time you're going to hold the Shift key and then click on the last. So now what it's going to do is it's going to highlight everything in between. Once again, this could be a group of emails that I want to delete. I could select all of them, click on the first, hold the Shift key, click on the last, and hit the delete key, and they would all disappear. The next method is everything. Now you're not going to use this usually when you're in the Documents folder, but you might use it if you're in an album of photos that you want to delete. The way you do select all is very similar to the way you do it on a PC. Instead of using the Control key and tapping the letter A, you're going to hold the Command key and tap the letter A, as in all. So now everything in that group is now selected. Now you'll notice that I said 3.5 ways. I want to show you the reason why. Let's say I want to select every document from here to the very bottom. So I would click on the first, hold the Shift key, and click on the last. But what if I actually don't want this file? Well, once you've selected everything, you can hold the Command key, click on the item you don't want, and it will deselect. So technically speaking, holding the Command key will individually select or deselect any item. That's just an important one to know. Another trick I want to share with all of you is a really fast way to send anything to the trash. Of course, I could drag this down to the trash can here at the very bottom right. Here's a little shortcut way that you can do it. With everything highlighted, you're going to hold the Command key and just tap the Delete key, and it will send everything to the trash. Now, if you ever make a mistake like that, let's say I did that and I didn't mean to, the way you can always go back in time and bring it back is to hit Command and the letter Z. This is very similar to how it is on a PC, except on a PC, once again, it's Control Z. Z is in zebra, by the way. Next, we're going to talk about creating tabs and tags, okay? So for this, I'm going to start off with talking about tabs. Now, let's say you're dealing with files in a whole bunch of different folders. Now, the old way that you would have to do this is you'd basically have one window right here. You go to File and click New Finder Window, which you then move over here, and then you go to File and New Finder Window over here, and as you can see here, this is all taking up a lot of space, and this doesn't really work that well. Instead, the alternative way you can do it is very similar to the way you create a new tab on the internet. All you have to do is hit Command and the letter T as in tab. So what happens is it's giving me access to two different locations, and I can very quickly switch back and forth between these locations. So for example, I could switch back and forth between the Documents and the Downloads folder. Now if I want to move something from the Documents folder to the Downloads folder, I could just simply click on it, drag it up here, and drop it in. Very, very easy. And that's how you do tabs on the Mac. Now the next item we're going to talk about is tags with a G. Now tags is a new feature. It's part of the OS X Mavericks operating system, and the way that you add a tag is you simply secondary click, which once again, if you're on a laptop, you're going to click with 2 fingers, or you can hold the Control key and single click. And at the very bottom here, you'll see it says tags. Now here you'll see the same tags that I have right here. These are ones that I have manually created. And you can create your own by just simply typing them in. So let's say I want to call it letter, L-E-T-T-E-R. When I hit enter, boom, that tag is now assigned. You can even use multiple tags. So let's say this is a letter that has to do with something Apple related. I could add the tag Mac to it. And so then when I'm in my Finder window here, I can just go down here to where it says Mac, and there it pops up. Or that one, I forget which one it was, the one I actually tagged. But it's an easy way to organize your stuff. Especially, this is a great feature for professionals like doctors, lawyers, where you have a lot of documents of all different types. Next, I want to talk about something very easy, but it's a good thing for all of you to know. Let's say you have on your computer a folder of photos. I get a question a lot from people. How can I easily import that group of photos into iPhoto? Do I have to do it one at a time, or how do I do it? Basically, if you have a folder of photos, you can drag the entire folder into the iPhoto icon, and it will just automatically import everything. Now, let's say within that folder, you also maybe have some music files. it's not a problem. You can still drag the whole folder right into the iPhoto icon. It just won't import those files that don't talk to iPhoto. Next, we're going to talk about, well, let's actually go into iPhoto. Now, what I did is I downloaded a bunch of photos that I shot on, that I uploaded to Facebook, so I could use these as kind of our example here. Now, obviously, most of you have far more than 13 photos in your photo library, but we're going to just use this as an example. Now, as you're going through your photos, you start to accumulate more and more. It's a good idea to get some sort of form of organization. Now, a lot of people, myself included, do not like using the feature called Events in iPhoto, which I totally get because it just doesn't work. I like to really create my own folders, my own albums. So I'm going to show you how I actually organize my photos on my real computer. The way I prefer to do it is I create individual albums only for the photos that I really want to have with me. So for example, let's say you buy an iPad one day. Do you really need every single photo you have ever shot with you at all times? Probably not. So what I did was I created an album called My Favorite Shots, or My Best Work. And so then what you can do is you can just sync that one album with your iPad, saving you a ton of space that otherwise would pretty much just be wasted. So here's how you create albums within iPhoto. You're going to go to File. It's actually very similar to the way you create a folder. And the first item here is New Album. So now you see that right now it's saying, are you sure you want to create an empty album? One thing that I want to mention, make sure when you do this, you are not clicked on any photos. You don't want any of them to be highlighted, because if they are, it's going to automatically bring them into that album. So I'm just going to hit continue for now. Now let's call this, once again, Best Shots. So now if I want to add photos to that album, what I'm going to have to do is go back to my photo library, and I can individually, or as I showed you earlier, in a list, select photos and drag and drop them into that album. And you can do it one at a time, you can do them in groups, whatever you like. Okay? Now, when I go into that album, you'll see I have all of those photos. One of the common questions that I get from people is, if I delete the photo from the album, does it delete it from my computer? The answer is no. It's only deleting it out of the album. The photo still exists. So for example, if I take this one right here and I hit delete, now when I go back to the photo library, you'll see that it is in fact still there. Good thing to know. Now, you can also create folders of albums in your computer. And I'll give you an example. You might have a folder for the year. So for example, you could have 2013, 2012, 2011, and then within each of those folders, you would have albums like Thanksgiving, Christmas, the different holidays that you got together with your family. Now, the way you do that is pretty simple. You're going to go back to File, but this time you're going to hit on New Folder. So now let's just call this one 2013. Now if I want to move my best shots into 2013, maybe I have a best shots that I shot that year. All I do is drag and drop it into 2013, and you can see here it kind of indents it. It's a really easy way to keep that stuff organized. And by the way, that is what a lot of people do, is they will create a folder for each year. It's just an easy way to reference and go back and find what you're looking for. That's about it for photos that we're going to go over today. Next, we're going to talk about music. So let's go into iTunes. Now, one of the features I want to make very clear that you should have this feature if you don't. In the most recent version of iTunes, which a lot of people don't like, myself included, they hid a key feature, which you now see on my screen, which is this little sidebar here. If you do not have this sidebar, it's really handy when it comes to creating playlists. So here's how you get it back. By default, I believe it is this one right here. By default, it looks like this, even if you had it enabled in previous versions of iTunes. To get the sidebar back, just go to View, and it's right here, Show Sidebar, and it comes right back. Now, playlists are great whether you want to burn a CD of your favorite songs or if you just want to have organized music for different types of occasions. So, for example, I have a playlist of music that I listen to when I'm hitting the gym. So the way you create a playlist is very simple. All you do is from here, you're going to click on the little plus symbol at the bottom left of your screen. Now you'll see here there's a few different options here. We're just going to do New Playlist. Now, just like we did before, see how the text is highlighted? I don't need to hit the delete key. Let's just call this Gym Music. And you can create as many of these playlists as you want. You can have one for the gym, one for when you're traveling in the car, one for a dinner party. And now, to add things to that, it's actually the exact same way we just did it in iPhoto. So we're going to go into the music library here because that's where everything is. And you can go through the different songs here and drag them and drop them into Gym Music. And just like we said before, if you want, you can hold the Command key and you can drag multiple items at a time into that playlist. So let's just add a few more here just so I can show you where to go from here. One of the common questions I get in from people is how do I burn a CD of my favorite songs? Well, the first step is you need to create a playlist of your favorite songs. Watch how easy it is when you're done. Now, it should be noted that your CD can only hold so much music. Typically, I believe it's either 70 or 80 minutes. I want to say 80. Now, you want to make sure that you have enough time available in here, that you have enough songs to fill it. At the very top, I only have 4 songs, so this shouldn't be a problem. And now, all you have to do is secondary click on that playlist. Again, 2 fingers click if you're on a laptop. If you're on a desktop, you can hold the Control key and click. And you'll see here that the second item is Burn Playlist to Disk. Very, very easy. Next, I want to go over a few features of organizing your stuff in the Contacts application. So here I only have a couple dummy ones, but we'll still be able to show you what to do here. Now, the Contacts program in your computer is important, especially if you're using something like iCloud, because what that allows you to do is if I add a contact to my computer, it's going to automatically add that contact to my phone and also to my iPad. So a lot of us, when we go to type emails more than anything, let's just crack open the email program. When we go and we send out emails, a lot of us don't save the person's address to the address book. So I want to show you a really easy way to capture that information. There's actually a couple different methods that you can use. So let's say you've been using the Apple Mail program for a while, and you probably have a lot of people that you've corresponded with that are not saved into your contacts. Here's a really fast way to add them. What you're going to do is in the Mail program, you're going to go to where it says Window here at the very top of your screen. Then from there, you're going to go down to this little feature here called Previous Recipients. Now, this is a dummy account that I have on my computer, so I don't want to put out real email addresses out there, okay, except for, of course, my own, which I think most of you know by now. So if this person right here I want to keep in touch with, you'll notice that on the left-hand side here, normally if this person was in my contacts, there would be a little icon of a card right here. And as you can see in this case, there is none. So with one click to add to contacts down here, that email address is now in my address book, in my contacts. And it's going to synchronize with all my different devices. It's a really easy way to do it. Now the other method that you can do is, let's use this one right here. This is an e-blast that went out to all of our PC Classes members. Now, if you look up here, as I put my cursor over my name, you see how it turns blue? Well, this might be a little tough for some of you to see, but if you look at the very right-hand side, there's a teeny tiny white triangle right there. And when you click on it, you get a couple of additional options, one of which is Add to Contacts. So with just one click, I can add that person into the address book on the Mac. Now, let's say you have a group of people that you correspond with. Maybe you have like a book club. Let's create a dummy book club, and what I want to do is show you how you can very easily send an email out to a group of people all at once without having to add every single person individually. Let's just go into contacts here, and add just a couple of dummy ones. So let's go plus new contact Barney R. And I'm just going to hit my keyboard at AOL.com. Okay, and let's add another contact, Jim W. Whenever you're creating dummy contacts, always do it at AOL.com. Anyways, so now we have those people here. Now let's create a dummy group. Now from the contacts application, you're going to go here to File, and you're going to click on New Group, which is the second item down. And now I can title my group, so let's call it Book Club, and hit the Enter key. And now we've got to add the people to that book club. So we're going to click back on All Contacts. You're starting to see the consistency here. Really, the way you do this in one program, the way I'm doing it in Contacts, this is the same procedure of how we did it in iPhoto. It's the same procedure as iTunes, and that's no mistake. You can bet on that. So now what I'm going to do is if I want to add these people into the book club, I can just drag and drop them into book club. Okay? Oops, sorry. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is, let's say there's a giant group of people and I want to email them all at once. You really don't want to have to go person by person adding them to that email. So watch this. Now that I've created a group, all these little programs in the Mac, they all talk to each other. Here's an example. I'm going to create a new message and I'm going to send it to the entire book club. But instead of adding each person individually, all I have to type is book. And you can see it figures out what I'm trying to say. And so it fills in book club. Now watch what happens when I hit the tab key. It adds in everyone who was in that group. Really, really easy way to send an e-blast to all your friends or contacts. Next, I want to talk about organizing your files themselves in different methods. So let's go back into the Documents folder here. Now, especially as you start to gather more and more data in your computer, it becomes a challenge to find the stuff that you're looking for. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. For example, if I want to keep it in alphabetical order, all I have to do is click up here at the top where it says Name. And you'll notice, depending on what it's on, it's going to either set it in order from A to Z or Z to A. So when I click it again, it's now going in reverse order. Likewise, if I click over here on Date Modified, it's going to have the item that I most recently created at the very top of the list. Now, where I find that to be really helpful more than anything is the Downloads folder. A lot of times when I download something off the web, I'm going to immediately be going into my Downloads folder to open it. And so by organizing it by Date Modified, it's immediately at the very top of the list. I don't even have to look. I know it's there at the very top. Now, if you click on Size, you guessed it, the larger files are at the very top of the list, smaller ones at the bottom. Now, folders do not come into play when you organize by size. It's because it doesn't calculate the size of the folder. It's just whatever you're clicked on, really. So it will, if you do this method, folders will be at the very bottom of the list. They won't be really organized. But when you're looking for a large video file, this is a handy way to do it. And you can set this preference for each individual folder. So if I want to keep it on, if I want to keep it organized by size, I can just leave it that way. And the next time I come back to Documents, it's still organized there, the same method. Now, the other thing you can do is if you look up here at the top of the window, there's 4 different ways that you can see the individual items. The first one is called Icon View, where you see sort of a little preview of what it is. The next is a list, which is what we were just on. Columns is handy if you have folders within folders. So you can see here I can click on Folder and it shows me what's inside that folder, which right now is nothing. And then the final method is called Cover Flow, where basically the top part of your window, let's go to somewhere where we have, it'll give you sort of a little preview of whatever the item is. Another handy trick I want to just throw out there to all of you is, let's say you're going through a bunch of documents and you can't find the right one. Instead of having to open each document one at a time, here's a fast way that you can preview it. just click on it once so that it's highlighted, and then what you're going to do is just simply tap the space bar. This is called Quick Preview, and it just will instantly give you a snapshot of what it looks like. Tap the space bar again for it to go back into the window. Next, let's go into Bookmarks. So I'm going to show you this right now in the context of Safari. One of the things I always like to put out there is that I am not a fan of Safari. If you are brand new to the Mac, please, I beg of you, get Google Chrome. It is 10 times better. It's faster, and what I love about it, and this is part of what I was going to lead up to later, is that Google Chrome will automatically sync across all your devices without any kind of configuration other than just signing in. So if I create bookmarks on my computer, those bookmarks will be synchronized to the app Chrome on my iPad or my iPhone. Or for that matter, another computer. It could be a PC, it could be a Droid, but it's a really easy way to synchronize across everything. Now, when you're in the web, of course you have your bookmark bar up here. That's what the name of this area is here at the very top. That's called the bookmark bar. Now the other location is the bookmark menu, which is right here under where it says bookmarks. Okay. Now the fast way, if you ever want to create a bookmark, is just hit Command and the letter D on your keyboard. I don't know why they chose D, but when you do that, it will automatically bookmark it. And at this point, you can tell the computer, where do you want this bookmark to go? Do you want it to go to the bookmark bar, bookmarks, or God forbid, top sites, which I don't think anyone uses. Now, one other little tip I want to give you when you're doing this, with a lot of websites, unfortunately my own included, when you go to bookmark it, the description is usually longer than it really needs to be. But notice, once again, that text is highlighted. So you can just type over it and just make it something a little bit more simple, so it doesn't take up the entire bar. So by renaming PC Classes Online PCO, when I click Add, you'll see up here it takes up very, very little space, and I have plenty of room for more bookmarks as needed. If you ever want to move these around, you can just click and drag them over. If you want to delete them, put your cursor right on them, two-finger click, secondary click, and hit delete. And it goes away. Now the other thing you can also do is you can drag it off, and it will, poof, disappear. Now, in some of these cases here, and this is usually the way that the Safari comes preloaded, you'll see here that, for example, for news, when I click on it, there's a series of additional websites here. Okay, well that's basically just a folder with different links inside of it. Here's how you create it yourself. Put your cursor somewhere here on the gray bar where there is no bookmark, and then secondary click, and your only option is new folder. So I can call it, tech. And now what I can do is, let's say I want to take PC Classes Online and drop it into tech. All I have to do is drag it. Oops, sorry. Really the best way to do this in this case is go to where it says bookmarks here and show bookmarks. And you'll see here that from the bookmark bar, I can very easily take PC Classes Online and just drag it into tech. And once I did that there, it reflected it up here. That's probably the best way to do it. Next, we're going to actually go back to email for a minute here, and I'm going to talk about creating folders and how these work. Now, email is a topic that can be very sticky to discuss because there are so many different types of email addresses out there, but what I want to do is go ever so slightly off topic and explain something that's important for all of you to know. There are two basic kinds of email technology. One is referred to as POP, and the other is referred to as IMAP. Now, in my opinion, IMAP is the good one, and POP is the bad one. Let me give you a few examples. Examples of POP are most of the internet providers, so Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, Cox.net, others like that. Examples of IMAP are iCloud, Gmail, and a handful of others. Now, for the most part, I recommend that most new people go to Gmail. It's reliable, it's safe, and what's great is that it auto-synchronizes, and that's where the IMAP part comes into play. So here's how it works. Let's say that you are using one of those POP accounts. Let's say Comcast.net. If I send you an email, I am not actually emailing you. I'm actually emailing Comcast, and they beam down a copy to your computer. Now, that's all fun and dandy if you only have one device. The problem is that as soon as you add a second device, whether it be an iPhone, a Droid, a second computer, an iPad, none of it is going to synchronize. So if you're like me and you get 100 emails a day, you're going to have to clear out 100 emails a day on every device that you own. And that's the reason why I recommend going with either Gmail or iCloud, either or. Another option that you can explore if you want is you can get your own domain name, so your own website address. Whether or not you actually use that feature is up to you. Now, the absolute best service provider out there when it comes to providing domain names, in my opinion, is a website called bluehost.com. It's what I use for every website that I manage, and there's quite a few of them. They're reliable, they're nice, and they've always been great to work with. And their accounts are all IMAP, so they synchronize. So in other words, just to finalize it all, if I get 50 emails and I delete them on my Mac, if I'm using an IMAP account, they're going to all automatically be deleted on all my other devices. It's just a really handy feature to have. Now, we're talking about folders on the Mac in terms of the Mail program. The way you do it, very similar to the way we've done it for everything else. You're going to click on the folder icon the plus symbol, rather, at the bottom left, and click on New Mailbox. Now, at this point, it's going to ask you, where do you want this folder to live? Now, for the most part, you're all going to see one of two options. You're either going to see on my Mac or another option, whether it's Gmail or it could be Comcast.net. Here's basically what that means. Let's say I want to have a folder where I'm going to put all receipts. Okay. Now, when I do this, do I want to be able to access that folder from all of my devices, or do I really just need it on this computer? Well, if I do on my Mac, okay, none of my other devices are going to have access to it. It's just going to be on the computer. Whereas in the example of if I put it in Gmail's servers, all of my other devices are going to have access to that folder. So let's do that right now. Okay. And in just a second, you see right here, we have a folder now called Receipts. So what you can do is you can search for emails and you can individually drag them and drop them into that folder. As I mentioned earlier, you can select these, more than one at a time, certainly if you want. And it's just a really easy way to do it. Now, another trick that you can use, especially for those of you who have a lot of email, is you can start to play with something in the Mac referred to as rules. So the way rules work is you can say, basically, if the email meets this condition, this is what happens. So, as an example, I work with a lot of business people, and a lot of them just want an easy way to access their receipts. So let's use that as the example. Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to click where it says Mail at the top left, and go into Preferences. Now, the very final option in Preferences is Rules. So what I can do is click where it says Add a Rule, and I can name it. I'm going to call it Receipts. And now I can start to create the conditions. Okay? So what I can say is, if the subject contains, and then the word, receipt, hopefully I'm spelling everything correctly here. Don't hate me if I don't. I can tell it to automatically move the message to receipts. And then when I hit OK, it's going to say, do you want to apply this now? Meaning anything already in my inbox is going to get moved into that folder if it meets those conditions. Hit apply, and it would move it. Let's do another one just to show you that this actually works. Let's just tweak that rule. And let's say I want to move it if it has the word YouTube in it. Okay, you can see in the background that I have a couple of emails that have that. So I'm going to move all of the emails that have the subject YouTube into receipts for no apparent reason. Hit apply, and there they go. They're gone. It's going to go through them one at a time. but you saw that already a bunch of those are starting to sink in. So that's how you create rules in the mail program. Finally, the last thing I really want to go over with all of you is using the spotlight function rather. So when you're trying to find a file, if you don't use tags, the easy way you can do it is you can either just click right in here in any Finder window, or you can use the spyglass up here at the very top right of your screen. Did I say it's Spotlight? Sorry, I always mix up the name for some reason. So let's say I was trying to find those dummy letters. I can just type in dummy, and here are all of those different things that I was looking for. And there's the dummy letter. Now, the final thing I want to discuss is moving files from a flash drive into your computer or vice versa. Now, you will see at the top right of my screen, I have just plugged into my computer a blank flash drive. Now, if you're going out to buy one, there are definitely some brands that seem to be better than others. One of the things I really like to do with this service is I like to make myself very accessible to all of you as far as advice when it comes to a product. So if you are in need of whether it's a hard drive or a flash drive and you want a good one, please feel free to shoot me an email through our website at pcclassesonline.com or the direct email, david@pcclassesonline.com. So I stuck the flash drive into my computer. Now, some of you, when you do this, you may or may not see it appear on the desktop. Let me show you how to change the options so that that does happen. When you're clicked on the desktop, it says Finder at the top right. When you click on Finder, you would be going into Preferences, and here under General, you want to make sure that External Disk is checked. Now watch this. If I uncheck it, you'll see that the icon just disappeared from the top right of my screen. Now you can also do the same thing for the hard disk, CDs, DVDs, and iPods, or connected servers. So I'm going to just enable that. Now the other location where you can access anything plugged into your computer is through Finder. Now, by the way, not to go off topic, I know it says Finder up here at the top left. I want to be very clear about something. Finder is this. At the very bottom left of your dock is Finder. Okay, so when you click on that, that is the Finder. It's the equivalent of my computer on a PC. When you do it, you should have a little thing over here on the left-hand side that says Devices, and you'll see that that is where my flash drive is. So now let's say I want to move files into the flash drive. I'll give you a couple of different ways that you can do this. Let's go into Documents, okay? Now, I could just simply take the file here and just drag it and drop it into flash drive, and just like that, it's there. The other option is I could use two different tabs. So for example, I could start off, clicked on my flash drive so that I'm in it, hit Command T as I showed you earlier, and now I can just navigate wherever I want and take things and just drop them into that other tab. Oh, I just moved the same document twice, so my bad. Okay, that's the other method that you can use. Now, one thing that's important to know when you're using a flash drive with a computer, with a Mac rather, is you have to eject it. You can't just unplug it like you can on a PC. This is because there's data going back and forth between the devices, between your flash drive and your computer. You cannot just break that connection. Now, if you do it accidentally, usually it's okay. If you do it enough, you can cause harm. I've destroyed at least half a dozen flash drives because of this, so it is important to do it. Couple of different ways that you can eject. First is if you have a Finder window open, you'll see this little icon here. The universal symbol for eject is a triangle with a line underneath it. If I click that, it will eject it. Option 2 is I can take the flash drive icon right here at the top right, and I can drag it into the trash can. As I start to move it, if you look at the bottom right of my screen, the trash can just turned into the eject symbol. So if I drag it and drop it into that, it will eject. The third way, this is the fast way to do it, is as long as you have it highlighted here so that you can see the text is blue, on your keyboard, the hotkey for eject is Command and the letter E. And so when I do that, which I'll do right now, it ejects it. Now you cannot unplug it until it disappears. By the way, the same thing is true for SD cards. So if you have a camera card and you plug it into your Mac, make sure you eject it before pulling it out of your computer. You don't want to just do that. Oh, one last final thing I want to talk about here, which I promised at the beginning and I somehow forgot about, is the dock and how you can manipulate it. You can change it up, customize it, add or remove programs. So if, let's say, Photo Booth here at the very bottom, whoever uses Photo Booth, well, unless you're the age of, 8, probably you haven't used Photo Booth. So there's two different ways that you can remove it from your dock. You can secondary click on it, and you'll see a thing here for options, and you can click remove from dock. The other method is if you drag it to the very, I got to do it quickly, if you drag it to the very top of the screen, okay, you see how the little puff just appeared? Well, when I let go of my cursor, it disappears. Now, one of the things that's important to note, if you just drag it a little bit off, it'll snap right back. Part of the reason why they did this is that in previous operating systems, and God knows I've had a million clients who have this issue, people would accidentally remove apps from the dock all the time. So by making it so that you had to drag it to the very top of the screen, it means you're less likely to accidentally do that. Now, if you want to add them back to the dock, here's how you do it. All you have to do is open Finder, go to Applications, and let's say I want to add iMovie to my dock. I just simply click, drag, and drop it onto the dock, and it will stay there. If you want to move it around, just click and drag it to wherever you want. Well, that's it for today, everyone. This is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com. If you haven't already done so, please check out our website. We are a free service where you can learn everything about how to better use your Mac, PC, iPhone, or iPad. That's all, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.